We've now committed $113 billion to the Ukraine. For reference, the entire budget of EPA is $12 billion. The budget of CDC is $11 billion. We have 57% of Americans. We have a crisis here. We have a war on the poor. 57% of Americans cannot put their hand on $1,000 if they have an emergency.
That's sad.
1/4 of Americans go to bed hungry. We have 1.5 million veterans who are living below the poverty line. We have 33,000 veterans who are homeless. We have 23 veterans a day who are killing themselves. The war on the poor is a blood war.
Hey, he's not lying.
Now the growing problem of LA County Metro and the homeless who ride trains and buses all day and spill out onto the streets at night at the end of those line stations. Well, tonight Metro has released a count of just how many homeless people ride every day and then forced off at the end of the line.
As Joy Benedict reports, the problem is massive and solutions are difficult to find.
It is the rush of rush hour, but on the Metro as most scurry to get out and head home. In North Hollywood, there are always a few who linger just to ride again.
It is really like being on Skid Row. It's Skid Row on wheels.
Now a new study by Metro puts the count at about 550. That's riders who ride all day with no place to go, as they are seemingly homeless.
I'm here at about 7:15 every day. Usually when the train comes in, the entire cart is filled with homeless people.
The red line from Union Station to North Hollywood is considered one of the worst.
I treat it kind of like wild animals of the city. You just don't interact with them, stay as far away as you can, and you're usually okay.
The study shows when the Metro stops just after midnight, more than 100 homeless people get off just here in North Hollywood alone.
We have somebody that comes around 5 o'clock in the morning or so and kind of rouses the folks that are around.
Daniel Zaldana is a barista at Groundworks Coffee, just a stone's throw away from the North Hollywood station. He says they now have security all day, and as he locks all the gates and the bathrooms when he leaves, he says he can't lock out the problem, so they've learned to live with it.
It doesn't feel good to tell somebody, no, you can't use the restroom.
With limited restrooms nearby, they now allow everyone to use them. He says it's the decent thing to do.
Food, water, shelter, restrooms are something that a functioning society would be willing to, bear the costs of.
Problems on the Metro are well documented. Drug use, overdoses, disturbances, and people passed out. Others aren't even fully clothed.
Well, I've had people fling me. Sorry, I shouldn't swear, but I've definitely had that. One guy tried to attack me with his bicycle.
Even a month ago, they're literally smoking crack on the car. So we're breathing in crack.
On this night, there was a heavy presence of police and ambassadors, and the trains seemed peaceful. And according to the study, 67% of the homeless on the Metro surveyed would like help finding shelter.
With the amount of taxes that come into the city, there has to be someone who has an answer that can use the money to do some good.
A problem that can't get fixed soon enough for those dependent on public transportation, who instead of tapping in, may just tap out of riding at all.
I don't mean to dehumanize them because it is a human problem, but I mean, it sucks for everyone else that's just trying to get to work every day.
LA Family Housing, which offers services for the unhoused here in the area, just signed a contract with Metro to hire 2 new outreach teams to work strictly with those riders on Metro, hoping to offer assistance for those willing to take it. In North Hollywood, I'm Joy Benedict.
If you can spend $400 during an emergency, count yourself lucky, because most Americans can't. A recent survey by a market intelligence company is bad news for you. Here's why.
The United States, the land of enterprise, opportunities and freedom. But there may just be a flip side to it. Most Americans won't be able to cover a surprise expense of $400 without taking debt. This may come as a shock to the outside world, but it seems to be the new normal in the US. A survey by Morning Consult shows that only about 1/3 of the US population will be able to meet this expense with their own money. For the vast majority, however, an emergency expense like a car repair or a routine medical checkup is another step towards bankruptcy. The survey is a clear indication that the savings cushion some households built up in the pandemic is fast eroding. This is more bad news for Americans who already reel under a heavy debt burden. For many Americans, taking debt to cover one expense also means not covering several others. The inability to pay isn't confined to the lowest income households. About 20% of Americans who earn between $50,000 and $100,000 said they can't cover a $400 expense with cash or credit. And you are wrong to think that emergency expenses are not that frequent. Over 40% of those surveyed said they meet an emergency expense at least once a month. The financial fragility of Americans is not going to end anytime soon. With a large section now drifting towards the gig economy, people will find it difficult to find a stable source of income. Add to it the high inflation and the threat of a recession later this year. Americans will feel the pinch in their pockets. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
San Francisco brought in the National Guard and California Highway Patrol this week to combat trafficking and drug-led zombies in the city. But 4 days later, sources told that post deals are still going down on the streets. The struggling city finally announced it would take a tougher stance on crime after an exodus of retailers plagued by theft, dwindling tourism, and 200 overdose deaths in 3 months, which sources claim have put the city in a doom loop. Overwhelmed by the number of people stealing and using drugs, flagship businesses like Whole Foods, Nordstrom, CVS, and Amazon have left downtown San Francisco or announced their impending departure. A total of 568 emergency calls were made to one Whole Foods location on Market Street over the 13 months it was open. The calls varied from vagrants throwing food, fighting, and even defecating on the floor. More than 30 businesses have left or plan to leave the downtown corridor, and San Francisco's population fell by 6.3% to the lowest it's been since 2010.